And what trends are we seeing?
Well, let's start with a potential cure. There was some positive news out of the UK this week. Clinical trials for a potential COVID-19 vaccine are underway in Britain. 2 volunteers were the first people in the world to be injected with a potential vaccine, this one created at Oxford University. Now let's now hear from one of those volunteers who's taking a bit of a personal risk for the good of the world, basically. Let's hear from him now.
Well, I'm a scientist, so of course I want to try and support science, the scientific process, whenever I can. And since I don't study viruses, I felt a bit useless these days, so I felt like this is a very easy way for me to support the cause.
The head of the research team says she's very optimistic it will be a success, and I reckon the whole world has their fingers crossed that it is. There's around 100 potential vaccines in development around the world. At least 5 of those are in phase 1 clinical trials. In terms of infection rates, pretty much all nations are trending downward. Now let's very quickly put up a few graphics to illustrate this. This global tracker from Johns Hopkins shows there's a mini spike in US cases at the very top of the graph there in green, but otherwise trends are pretty good. Zooming in now to the second graphic, and you can see that the major nations in Europe are plateauing or going down, which is great news. But leaders there aren't being too quick in relaxing the lockdowns most nations are currently in. Now that, Peter, is a very superficial snapshot, but there's a lot in that picture to be pretty positive about.
Now, Brent, there's a lot of negative news regarding the outbreak in the US, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right, Peter. The US has recorded around 50,000 deaths, actually more than 50,000 deaths, which is more than any other nation. Experts there predict thousands more may die in the coming weeks. The US House of Representatives today passed another $480 billion relief package, which will allow for a significant increase in COVID-19 testing. Now, more testing, of course, means that authorities are more likely to contain outbreaks and prevent deaths. It should be noted there's quite a bit of anger at these multi-billion-dollar bailouts from labour unions and some economic commentators. Critics say it's worse than the 2009 bailouts, saying that US leaders are now giving trillions to big businesses, some of whom don't need it, while shafting average Americans. Remember, Peter, 26 million Americans have filed for unemployment since the pandemic began, a level not seen since the Great Depression. Meanwhile, thousands have been protesting the social distancing restrictions meant to curb the spread of the virus. Rallies were held in several states this week, and let's now hear from some of those protesting.